This is the Television Enthusiast Podcast, The Weekly Set.
Episode 45, recorded February 25th, 2016. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Weekly Set, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. I am your host, Tyson. Joining me, as always, is Will.
Hello.
And a special guest today, a former contributor, and he's been on the podcast a few times, so you've been able to hear his voice, Ed.
What's up, everyone?
Okay, so we're going to be talking today about the spring 2016 TV preview. So you can check out the full list of our preview on TVEnthusiast.com on the front page. We've narrowed it down a little bit to talk about some of the more interesting ones, what we think is more interesting to talk about of those shows that are on the preview.
You know, I gotta say that's been pretty tough for the spring because a lot of the stuff looks pretty solid. I was going through this stuff and thinking to myself, there's so much stuff here that looks great, and then I'm like, but there's literally no time to watch everything for like any one person.
I was gonna say the same thing, Will. Actually, when I was watching the trailers, I said to myself, I could probably watch all of these shows. Just where am I gonna find the time?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the time we're getting to, is where we have so much good TV coming in, and it's going into such narrow niche area that you're getting these shows that almost feel like they're tailor-made for you. Like it's just like this show is for me, you know. And the cool thing about that is that you're ending up with, instead of compromising and going like, I don't really like the concept of the show that much, but it's really good, so I'm gonna watch it. You're ending up with like, okay, there's so many good shows that are so fit perfectly to what you're interested in that you don't really have to compromise on anymore. The one sad part about it is that we're not having this like community consciousness of like discussion on like these very specific singular shows. I mean, we still do occasionally. Occasionally a show comes around and just like blows everyone away, like, you know,
like
the first season of True Detective or Game of Thrones or, you know, shows like that.
The Walking Dead.
Yeah, that it just encourages this water cooler talk, but a lot of shows that you end up going like, man, I absolutely adore this show, I love it, and you can't find anybody to talk to about it.
I can't talk to anybody about the Magicians. They look at me like I have 3 heads.
Yeah. I love the Magicians, and yeah, that's going to be a one that's harder to get, you know. Think about like Hannibal, how amazing of a show Hannibal was, and it was so hard to find people that had ever watched it.
Hannibal's gonna find life on Netflix and reruns. Don't worry, I've already gotten a few people into it. We just gotta keep pushing that. I think with TV, it's kind of something similar like what's happening with film, where audiences are getting behind certain shows and everyone's getting behind those. And if your film or show is not one of those ones that everyone's getting behind, you're kind of left in the dust. And there's all this potential here, and you just know like some of them are gonna get canceled right before the first season even finishes, and some will continue, you know? So.
Definitely. We're actually getting something kind of surprising, though, and I think a lot of the higher concept stuff that always felt at risk of cancellation within the first season, a lot of that stuff has longer legs now because of services like Netflix. So you're getting a lot of shows that are getting like confirmed season 2s before they even air, and that like never happened before. So that's kind of cool that, you know, and a lot of the high concept stuff is getting that, you know. I mean, The Expanse, you know, it's got a second season like almost immediately, like I think it was like right after the pilot aired. They're like, okay, I'll give it a second season. It's like they didn't even have the data yet.
No, but I mean, like even with Netflix, like you're looking at how they look at shows, how they dump it, and they look at how many people are clicking on it, how many people continue to watch past to the second or third episode. And normally if they do, it costs them nothing to really keep that show going if they see that people are watching it, because it's a subscription service, right? They're not really paying for ads or anything. They're just completely changing the way that we watch TV, and I love it. I love the format. You know, almost all the shows, almost everything I watch right now is through Netflix or some kind of subscription service. Unfortunately, Canada doesn't get as many like of the subscription services like Hulu. We have like Crave TV, which is like Hulu Light, I guess you'd say, but little things like that. But we're getting there. We're getting there.
I'm actually interested in that because there are some Hulu originals now. Are you guys still getting those like through other channels, or is that just not available?
I think some of your Canadian listeners may know a little bit more, but I haven't been able to get Hulu Canada Light. And Hulu Canada for us is not really we don't really get the original stuff. The content it's weird. It's a lot of it I think is rights issues and copyright stuff, like because Crave TV is owned by Bell Media, so obviously they tend to dictate a lot of what comes in terms of what gets played and what gets streamed. But even some Netflix shows, like there's a lot of Netflix stuff that the States has that Canada doesn't have, and Canada has certain things like Shadowhunters is a Netflix original. Meanwhile, you guys have it on Freeform, right?
Yeah.
It's Freeform, yeah.
Yeah, that's it's so weird. And I remember at one point like how we have our actual schedule for America, and then we have I was trying to do another one for Canada and another one for the UK, and I was trying to kind of get that all organized so everybody could see when their shows are starting up, and I just gave up. I'm like, I can't find listings.
I just remember when we were doing The Advocates a little while ago, and you were really pushing Black Mirror, and you're like, yeah, it's on Netflix, and it wasn't for me.
Oh,
I had to scout, like search everywhere to find it.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. Real considerate, Tyson.
Well, you just said for you that Hannibal was on Netflix, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for us here, that's an Amazon exclusive.
Oh yeah, I heard that they got a deal with Amazon. No, they have it for Netflix here. I think MTV and a lot of those channels, because we have Scream as a Netflix original, whereas I think you guys have it on MTV.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's just so strange.
Oh yeah.
I hope that you get some of the shows. Like I hope 11/22/63 is pretty decent. I hope you guys can get that somehow.
Yeah, as soon as I heard that was on Hulu, I was like, oh shit. But apparently some of my friends are watching it. I was actually just coming because it's midnight right now for me, but I was just coming from hanging out with some friends, and they were all talking about 11/22/63. So I don't know how they're watching it. It is through Hulu, but
they're watching it while fighting off scurvy.
Oh yeah, there's something going around here, man. Like everyone I know is sick. Yeah, I just came off a cold too, so yeah. But yeah, man.
Let's go through this schedule though. So I'm gonna start off now. Right off the bat, our schedule is starting on March and going through to the end of June. I know that's not technically the exact accurate timing of spring, but it just makes it easier for us to schedule in these kind of 3-month blocks when we do these previews. So please forgive that. Wednesday, March 2nd, that's the debut of the first show on our list, which is Hap and Leonard. Now this is a series that's based on a series of novels, kind of like a weird 70s noirish kind of thing. I don't know, I couldn't even tell in the previews. It's when something's so like destination set, like that's such like this is like a southern Texas kind of area show. It's hard to pinpoint the date.
It is.
Oh yeah.
I think they're going for 70s, and that would make sense because in the book series, apparently, like one of the characters is a Vietnam veteran, and the other went to jail for draft dodging.
Yeah, so it's 70s. But yeah, without that context, watching trailer, I don't think I would really know it was supposed to be.
I was looking for cell phones. I'm like, is somebody going to pull out a cell phone? That'll tell me right away.
And so basically, this just looks like batshit insane. It really does. In a good way, though.
Well, it went from like buddy cop comedy, like from the first couple scenes, to like all out, Reservoir Dogs by the end.
Yeah, I know. I was like,
what is happening?
There's a little bit of Justified going on, but a little bit darker, I think. Yeah, it's good to see Omar from The Wire kicking around.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's looking pretty good. Do you guys have any further thoughts on Hap and Leonard? This is one that we just don't know much about. There's just not a lot of information.
I don't know much about it. It looks cool from the trailer. Definitely one to check out if you have Sundance TV.
Yeah, I would personally was sold just on the two leads. I'm a big fan of both of them, so that alone was cool. It looks like a show that definitely needs a lot of time, so I'm glad that it wasn't some kind of trailer for a film, because that would look like more like it was a jumbled, like way too many things happening. But I think for a show, I think this could be potentially interesting. It was nice to see a show where everyone isn't pulling out their cell phones every 2 seconds, at least in the trailer, from what we saw there. There were some funny moments, I'm not gonna lie, like it seemed like something that I'd be interested in. I don't know if I get Sundance TV, so I'm not investing too much into this one just yet.
Hopefully it'll come to something, to some service, you know. These services drive me nuts. We just need to get to that global market standard, you know.
I know.
It looks like Netflix is pushing there now, but they're, you know, they can't be the only one.
No, well, you know, we're so close to you guys, and we get virtually nothing.
Yeah. Like, I imagine people in Canada and America like ferrying over like old VHS tapes over the, you know, over the border.
Believe it or not, I've been to some of our small towns, like up in cottage country. They still sell VHS tapes. It's amazing.
Wow. So, moving on the list here, we got Monday, March 7th is a new A&E series that follows the adventures of Oliver Queen from Smallville. It's Damien on A&E based on the Omen movies, and it's got the Green Arrow from the Smallville TV series in the titular role.
Well, that's cool, I guess.
Well, did that throw you when you saw him? Because that threw me.
No, because I didn't really watch Smallville, so I totally forgot about that guy. I guess
talk about Smallville so much on this podcast, but usually in a negative. It's usually like, damn it, Arrow, you're getting so Smallville right now.
Exactly. Like I didn't watch Smallville. Anytime I watched Smallville, it was just like, no. I was just like, nope. And so, yeah, I was a big Smallville fan.
I think it's any time a CW show goes past its 4th or 5th season, it tends to kind of get a little Smallville-ish. They run out of ideas, so they just focus on romance. What I noticed, at least.
Right? Because it's a CW, so they have a formula for like all their shows.
Yeah.
But that is a topic for another night.
There is a CW show on this that I would really like to see what they do after season 5, if that show makes it to season 5.
Oh, but, yeah. Contagion.
Yeah, we'll talk about that after. I'm actually really excited for Damien. I didn't even know this was coming out, although Canada does get A&E, so I will be checking this one out. I'm a huge fan of the original movie, so I was always wondering what it would be like when Damien grew up, you know, because the sequels don't really count for that for The Omen, but the Omen was a really cool horror movie. It's one of the better horror movies of the 70s, and
right.
I thought that this concept was definitely something that I've wanted to see for a while. I don't know how long they can sustain it for, like beyond a couple seasons, but I would like to see where it goes. Maybe it will become the next Supernatural. I highly doubt it, but I'm definitely intrigued with what.
So this is in between the first movie and the Sam Neill he's president movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yeah, this is what's interesting here, I think, is that there are a few projects that kind of have a similar vibe to Damien that are in development. Most of them debuted at Comic-Con, I think, last year, made their first presence, but another one that's coming up, it's not on this list because it's not coming up yet, is, I believe it's called Outcast, and it's a Robert Kirkman project.
Oh, interesting.
That's coming to Cinemax. It's about kind of like, somebody that's like possessed or something, whereas Damien's like, you know, full on Antichrist or something.
Yeah, the Omen is interesting. This is interesting because this is actually about the Antichrist, and that whole mythology of the Book of Revelation. Whereas I find that interesting. Whereas if somebody's just like demon possessed, that's kind of boring.
It looks good though. From the trailers for the Outcast, looks good, and it's a Robert Kirkman thing, so he's kind of the in-demand source material guy right now.
Yeah, right.
Well, Outcast looked pretty cool. It did. I have my own reservations about Robert Kirkman. I'm not as huge a fan of The Walking Dead as everyone else, but it does look good. It looks promising. Damien, the thing I like. Yeah. Sorry?
Invincible. That's the real Robert Kirkman stuff.
Yes. But what I like about Damien, at least, is that feels almost too that they will create kind of a conflicted character, not just someone who's just like completely evil, like terrorizing people. It seems that they're going to give him a lot of personality, which is something to me that always intrigued me because, again, like when the Antichrist grows up to bring about the end of the world, is he just like pure evil, or does he have, like, if he's human, does he have some good sides to him? So that's what I want to see, and I think the show's going to bring that. So,
right, definitely. I agree 100%. Definitely another one to watch.
Okay, next up, we have, there's 2 new series coming to Netflix on March 11th. This is part of Netflix's plan to double the amount of original content they're putting out this year than what they put out last year, which is insane. But, the first series that's coming out is Flaked. Now, this is the 3rd project, involving Will Arnett on Netflix, one being Arrested Development and the other being BoJack Horseman. Now he's got this series called Flaked, where he's playing somebody that was involved in an accident, and he's trying to kind of rebuild his life in Los Angeles, I think, and he's kind of dealing with the whole self-help angle of things. It looks like it's kind of a comedy with heart. What do you guys think?
It looks like my type of show, like in another angle. Like, yeah, I like the nerdy and the horror stuff, but I'm a big sucker for kind of like lighthearted, quirky comedies, and the trailer just they marketed it to me particularly. I like Will Arnett a lot, and the concept did intrigue me. I'm actually watching right now the Love season 1, the Judd Apatow one.
How is that?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's not like amazing, but I find Judd Apatow is better suited to TV because a lot of the comedy and stuff that he tends to get criticized for in his films being too long or not very funny. It's a lot better when you see it in a serialized sitcom. So it is good. Check it out. I enjoy it. That would make
sense because I know one issue I've had with a lot of his movies has been that, like, they start off kind of funny and then they start, like, when the heart starts coming in, it just stops being funny.
Trainwreck did that for me, and then it just slowed down so much by the middle. I was like, God, pick up.
And like as a TV show, you have kind of like a different structure, and he has to kind of break it off every half hour.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine that might work better for him. Like, he might work better in that kind of a limited structure.
I think he does. And so with Flaked, I'm not really sure who's behind the writing team, but I just like the tone of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice little alternative to a lot of the bigger shows that Netflix is carrying on. So I'm actually definitely checking this for sure.
Will?
Yeah, it looks great. I don't know what to say about it, except, it's not like this goofy funny that I thought I was gonna get from Will Arnett, but
yeah, it's not a Joe from Arrested Development.
No, it's I want to say it's more serious, but yeah, it's a different kind of comedy. It looks really interesting though. Will Arnett's character looks interesting. It looked like something I would definitely watch.
Okay, so
sorry, it looks like it will have a lot more serious moments than what I think most sitcoms are used to. But
that's a new trend that we're seeing a lot more of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is definitely a new trend. Yeah, it looks like it'll have a lot more serious moments to it. A lot of self-reflection. Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
So on the same day, we're getting the premiere of another series on Netflix, our comedy series called The Characters. What's interesting about this is what it looks like. It's like each episode is going to be like basically like a pilot for a separate series. Like they're all going to be kind of the same cast, but it's kind of like, like Jerry Seinfeld got his sitcom, and like you always have this kind of idea of like, oh, if you make it really big and as a stand-up comedian, then you get your sitcom, and this is taking a bunch of kind of smaller named comedians that are kind of up and coming and saying, okay, we're basically going to make a series of like these kind of different sitcom concepts that you guys can basically like make, like, what is your Seinfeld in essence,
Yeah, it looked terrible to me.
Okay, I thought I was alone on that. It looks awful.
I think the concept's really interesting, but yeah, some of the gags looked really kind of just fell flat.
The problem with this concept is that, yes, they're younger comedians, but they're also unproven comedians. And I hate to say that about younger or less experienced people trying to do this because they need the experience, but basically trying to drop a sitcom on their lap and without knowing what they can do, you're going to get this huge inconsistency. Some may respond very well to it. Others may not. But from what I saw in the trailer, it's a lot of people trying to do really stupid, like, costume joke, really jackass style humor, and these people aren't that good at it. This feels something like Adam Sandler would have put out, like, when he's on autopilot. It looks really, really bad. And we have, you probably have seen it before, but Montreal, Just for Laughs, they do a little, like, segment called Gags where, there's nothing, there's no dialogue, there's no sound. It's just a bunch of, comedians or people who just come up with these interesting ideas, and Gags will put it on and display it on the street, and they'll get the general public to react to it. And so you get these genuine reactions that are really, really funny. That works. This is, I think it's just going to be a bunch of people just trying way too hard to be funny, and we all know how that does not work well for anyone.
It's like a whole season of pilotitis.
Oh my god,
yeah. It's gonna be bad. A lot of it, like already from the trailer, a lot of it looks like way too try hard for my taste. I'm just like, no. Nothing even like made me smile in that trailer. It was just awful. So
yeah, it kind of felt like a weird collection of like off Saturday Night Live skit.
Yeah.
Like the ones that don't kind of quite land.
The outtakes of Saturday Night Live, yeah.
These are the skits that they rehearsed and went like, no, this isn't gonna work.
Exactly.
And this may be a problem, and I don't know, but when you say Netflix wants to double their output in a single year, that's a lot of content they're putting out.
Because they put out a lot in 2015.
They did, and like I was browsing the Netflix originals in 2015, I'm going, whoa, where did all these shows come from? And what I don't want, because I equate Netflix with the highest of quality of TV right now. I think that some of the best shows on TV, arguably, are on Netflix, and it's because of the format they use that creators really get, I guess, for lack of a better word, creative with what they do. And I really don't want Netflix to have like one great show and then a couple really shitty ones just because, they're trying to just get content out there as opposed to looking for the quality. So I'm concerned because the characters really looks like something that was pitched not just poorly, but not really well thought out, and people are just running for it. So I'm hoping that this doubled output of Netflix originals doesn't affect the quality of the programming that comes out on the platform.
Well, I think it will to some extent. I think we're still going to get good quality stuff, but there's this kind of weird approach that Netflix has taken to the way they're going to put out content, which is that they've said in interviews before, for example, that they have these weird categories. They have like 3,000 something categories that are like ultra specific, like, these are French horror films with a female lead, or, like they have these like weird categories that we've all seen when we've gone through our Netflix lineup. And they basically said that they want to fill those out. And so they, at one point, were actually financing some really like super low budget like movies and stuff just to kind of fill out, just to kind of put the box art there in the lineup. That'd be like a video store that has all the like the non-miss gap.
I guess those are all the one-star horror titles that are on there, right?
Yeah. I agree with you that that's not necessarily the best way to fill out content, but I understand kind of what they're doing with it, and I don't think it's going to affect the quality of their higher like quality stuff. Like, I don't think Daredevil's gonna suffer because of the characters,
Oh yeah.
I think that they're kind of like I think they internally know like this is our like throwaway project that we're just using to flesh out part of the lineup, and then this is something we actually care about. And I just think it's interesting their kind of idea to flesh things out like that. And because of that, they're trying a lot of different things, some of which are gonna end up being good, and some of which are not gonna be good. So because of this kind of thing, we were able to get like with Bob and David, like a sequel to Mr. Show, that was like this like only 4 episodes, and one of the episodes is like behind the scenes, and that's really unique and different. Or like Wet Hot American Summer, who would have thought we'd ever get a TV show of that? That's true. Crazy. But we do. I mean, that's not something that was even in demand, but we have it, and it's all part of like fleshing out that lineup, I think. So it's interesting. If nothing else, it's interesting.
Definitely. Interesting to see what the content will be this year. In the case of these two shows. One looks very promising. One looks like I will never watch a single episode after the pilot.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just these two trailers alone. If you compare them, you can see that there's a big quality gap just between these two shows on Netflix already, and I don't think with Netflix doubling the output of their content, I don't think they're all going to be winners. That's impossible.
They won't. They won't. They're just trying to make it. Well, they're in that weird position where they're starting to lose a lot of their contract deals for content from other companies because other companies are realizing, well, why are we giving this to Netflix? Why aren't we being Netflix?
Right.
And because of that, they're going to start losing a lot of that content. So they're basically flushing out as fast as they can. They're trying to flush out their lineup. So they're basically self-sustainable. So it's really interesting, that some of that stuff's going to be good. There's also, I'm sure, going to be tons of series that are actually quite good, but are going to go completely under our radar. And then we're going to hit some point where it's like, oh, it got recommended to me again on Netflix. What the hell is this? It came out 3 years ago. And it ends up being something that you love, and that could very well be the case.
I love Netflix's recommendations. I don't know how they do it, but they've given me so many good gems. They've given me some stinkers, but definitely it's worth it because some of the stuff that I found, like you said, I never would have. I think I did. I can't remember if it was with you guys or another site that I wrote it for, where I listed a whole bunch of movies that are on Netflix, top 10 horror movies. So it wasn't for you guys. And it was like the thumbnails after a while they get very, everything looks the same after a while.
Homogenous, yeah.
Even like going through especially if you hit like a genre like horror or comedy, everything looks the same. So how do you know what to watch, right? Even the star rating system isn't really all that reliable. So I like the fact that they do recommend things to us based on what we've watched previously or what we've enjoyed in the past. And so I don't know if other subscription networks have kind of adopted a similar format, but right now Netflix has really gotten that down, in my opinion. So
Hulu does a little bit of that. They're not quite as off the wall as Netflix is with it. Like Netflix will have these ultra specific categories and match you to them, but Hulu doesn't really have that, but it does okay with recommendations. Amazon, that's they really need to sort out there. Cause basically it feels like completely disconnected from, any kind of other service. It just doesn't have that same feeling. It feels like you don't know when you're looking through something if it's something you have to buy a season of or if it's part of the subscription. And that's kind of a problem. So, and sometimes they'll have one season of a show that's part of the service and another season that you have to pay for.
Oh, wow, that's just, yeah.
Yeah.
You're paying a premium for Prime anyway.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
But see, that's the thing is because it's it has those same kind of content deals that iTunes and, Google Play and all these other services have where they basically can get something a Walking Dead episode the day after it airs or something like that, because they have all of that stuff and it's not part of their subscription plan. They basically have two different services and they're kind of overlapping and it kind of creates a little confusion and they're not really good at separating that. Another problem is that if you search for a show, you're not really going to the category for the show, but for a collection of a season. So if you're looking for Transparent, it's one search result will be Transparent, the other will be Transparent season 2. So instead of all grouped together, and you can get to it together once it's there, but it just kind of clutters things up and makes it a little confusing. So
that's weird. I guess again that not to keep kissing Netflix's ass, but
oh no, they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, their layout is so clean and it's easy to use, and I guess that's why they've done so well in terms of getting subscriptions or getting people to keep their subscriptions, because it's very easy to navigate. Even Crave TV has almost the same layout now. They even go a little bit further to tell you when you're looking at a genre just how many titles they actually have there. It's one of 433 or something like that, or one of 25, which I like. So, and then whenever you watch a show, it's the first thing again at the top of your list. So they've kind of borrowed a little bit from the Netflix layout. Again, they've kept it very clean and organized, and I think that makes it a lot easier to want to stay on that platform. Again, I don't have Amazon Prime, so I don't know exactly how it looks. I'm even wondering if Canada even gets the shows, because when I go on Amazon and they're trying to get me to upgrade to Prime, they just talk about free shipping. So
yeah, it's kind of a weird setup.
Yeah.
I think it's like the best bargain around as far as like, cause it's not just, I mean, just the 2-day shipping I think is worth it on Prime, but like when you add in all the other stuff, and there's tons of stuff they throw in there that stuff I don't even really know about too much. Like you can basically borrow books and stuff. I mean, it's weird.
Oh, cool.
There's so much stuff interconnected to Prime, but you need to kind of like look into it. You know, it's not really presented well. It's a great offer, but they don't really present really well what you can do with it. So they need to do a better job of that. But let's move on. We were talking a lot about Netflix, and here's another one with Netflix. This is one I think we're all really looking forward to. Friday, March 18th is the return of Daredevil on Netflix.
I'm already, I'm not doing anything that day. I've already blocked my whole calendar off. I'm binge watching that entire season on that day. I'm doing nothing else.
I think I'm gonna do that with, as well. I did that with Jessica Jones, where I didn't do that with the first season of Daredevil. Like I watched it a lot of it, like quickly, but with Jessica Jones, I made sure, I was downstairs exactly when it went up, and I started it like exactly when it became available.
Oh, no way.
And so I was like checking in on Twitter and stuff like that, and I just was like, okay, this is kind of cool, like getting some other people that were doing it too and talking to them. And you get that experience of that kind of like live TV experience that we don't really have anymore, just by kind of binging it and doing that. So that was kind of cool. So I want to do that again with Daredevil, definitely. And can we talk about how amazing that trailer was?
Oh my god. Well, I was already sold on the show because like with season 1, I didn't plan to binge watch it. I just I was curious, and then I ended up binge watching it. The thing, Daredevil season 2 already sold me. All they had to do for me was just say Daredevil season 2, this is the date. I would have probably just blocked it off to binge watch anyway. But the way that they're...
Yeah, go ahead.
Just the way that they advertised it with the Punisher one and then the one with Elektra.
Oh,
Perfect.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
I watched the one with Elektra. It looks excellent. I mean, this looks like top tier stuff, don't get me wrong, but it does look like there's like a lot going on.
Well, if you think back to the first season, there was a lot going on there too, that like, cause I was kind of reminded of that with the Elektra trailer, where like, I was like, I'm like, oh, Elektra trailer, I wasn't really looking that like forward to watching that one, cause I'm like, oh, it's the Punisher trailer was what I was really interested in. But then when I started watching the Elektra one, I'm like, oh yeah, there were all these other parts of Daredevil that I almost kind of forgot about that were really interesting when I was watching it, but like it ends up becoming about like Wilson Fisk, and you're like, then all your attention goes towards him. But then you're like, oh yeah, there was all that stuff with like the Hand and the Yakuza and the different kind of crime groups and stuff that weren't related directly to Fisk. And then it's like, okay, yeah, that's cool. So I like that the Elektra trailer wasn't just like, oh, we shoved in Elektra too. It was like, oh, here's like how she connects to this in this kind of mythology that we already kind of touched on in season 1, and we're going to get deeper to, and that's going to be a bigger part of the Defenders as well when all of that comes together.
Oh yeah, well I really appreciated like the two trailers, very different, and they were very focused on what they were trying to market. The Daredevil versus Punisher angle. Which I know is big in the comics, and I couldn't help laughing a little bit because John Bernthal, who they cast as the Punisher, kept doing the you don't know what it takes, you don't have you're not willing to go that extra step, and I'm like, wait, that's Shane versus Rick. What's going on here? Walking Dead. But I loved it. I thought it was great because it showed that dynamic, and I'm like, well, is season 2 now focused all on that conflict between Daredevil and the Punisher? And then I got this other one with Elektra, and it's like, no, the Hand is going to be there. Elektra, the relationship that Elektra had with the Hand, as well as how it's going to develop with Matt Murdock, it's almost like a whole different angle on the season. So it shows that there's going to be a lot of richness in this season. Like it's going to move, and there's going to be a lot of arcs that each character is going to have. How the two of them tie together, they haven't really shown, but I like that. I like the fact they didn't do that. It's like, you're going to get a lot with this, you're going to get this. It's almost like it's complete fan service, in my opinion.
Yeah.
These are some great characters. Like this trailer alone just wiped the Jennifer Garner Elektra from my mind, which was amazing that it did that, because it looked like Elodie Young looks like Elektra. She talks, moves, everything, and it doesn't look cheesy and it doesn't look stupid. And and the Punisher. I think John Bernthal is a perfect casting choice for Frank Castle, and yeah, it looks like this is going to be a really strong season. I'm hoping it delivers because it looks great.
Will, anything else? Will, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. I've been listening. Yeah.
You put him to sleep.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So basically, yeah, I was thinking though, I watched like the second trailer to Daredevil, which wasn't on the page, by the way. It's not on the TVEnthusiast page.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting Tyson to go ahead and post that soon.
It's there. It's there. It's just not in that article.
Okay, yeah, it's not in the article. But so when you watch the two trailers together, I thought it's really, really cool. They're doing like really awesome stuff. Like the Punisher, which that was my idea. I want to take full credit for the Punisher being in Daredevil season 3 because they listened to the previous podcast where I said they should have the Punisher and they're doing it.
Thanks, Will.
You're welcome. And so basically, but I watched the one with Elektra and I was like thinking, they're doing like so much this season. It seems almost like a lot. Like they got Elektra, they got the Punisher, and they got like the Hand is happening now. And I'm like, wow, okay, this is a lot. Like season 1 just had like the Kingpin like going on. And it seems like
did have like the Hand and stuff. It just was briefer.
Well, they were like in the background. This looks like they're going to like really, they're going to jump into it now. But they also got the Punisher. You know, these are really like foreground elements.
But they don't have to establish origin story anymore.
Right.
So there's things like that. Plus, this is a TV series, so it's not like, when we see all the different superheroes popping up in Batman versus Superman, and we're like, maybe this is too many.
Oh yeah, like at the end,
2 hours to get all that in.
Yeah, like at the end of Batman vs Superman trailer where it's like Doomsday and then Wonder Woman appears and it's like, oh, yeah. No, I mean, it definitely like wasn't this. It just amazed me. I don't know. I'm just thinking this has the potential to be amazing or to be the other way, but so far it looks amazing. I gotta say, of everything on here, I'm most hyped about Daredevil, and not because I am biased towards Marvel. I am, but not because I am biased, but because it genuinely looks like the best thing here.
I'd say it would be in my top like 3 or 4 probably, definitely. I don't know if I could narrow it down further than that right now, but the next one on our list is actually one of the ones that would be quite up there as well, which is Wednesday, March 30th, coming to Hulu, and I hope it finds some way over to you in Canada as well, Ed.
I saw the trailer and I was like, yeah, this is great. I'll probably never get it, so I'll wait for you guys to talk about it.
Hulu is starting to put out some like really top tier content, so it's a shame if you don't get any of it.
I'm sure some of it will find its way, whether if it's just Hulu expanding further in Canada, or if it's them making a deal with another provider, even if it's a temporary deal. But The Path is coming to Hulu. Right off the bat, I wanted to see this series just because of who's in it.
Yeah.
You got Jesse from Breaking Bad. You got Will from Hannibal, and you got Michelle. Is it Michelle Monaghan? Is that her name?
Yeah, Michelle Monaghan.
Yeah, from True Detective. And oh man, that trailer though. Whew.
Ooh, this looks so good.
Yeah, man. I really miss seeing Hugh Dancy on TV, and this trailer reminded me how much. So yeah, this is gonna be amazing.
Yeah, Hugh Dancy and Jesse from Breaking Bad. This looked really good. This did. I don't know, I watched 11/22/63, and I thought that's one of the best Stephen King adaptations. And then there's a trailer for this. I'm just like, wow, Hulu is really like killing it in the original content game, and it's like, and they're new to this.
Yeah.
And they're already in there like killing I'm like, wow, okay. So
yeah, Amazon had a lot of misfires before they managed to start pulling off good stuff.
Oh yeah, like Amazon, like the stuff they put out, like half of it is boring as hell. And like,
and when they first did that pilot season, one of their first ones was like Zombieland, where they recast all the characters and completely ruined it. You know?
Ooh, yeah, that was bad. That was bad.
And a lot of the shows just looked really low budget and just kind of like poorly executed. And it took them a while before like we started getting stuff like Transparent and Mozart in the Jungle and Man in the High Castle out of it. But Hulu, like, they took a while before they finally committed to doing like big dramas like this. But right off the bat, they just dove in head first. And so that's pretty exciting. And definitely The Path is one of the ones I'm most excited about on this, alongside Daredevil and some other ones that are coming.
I have to agree. The trailer for Path was one that impressed me the most here. Just great stuff.
Yeah, I really want to see what Hulu brings to the table here, because they're the ones coming in at the last of the game with the original programming, but like you guys said, they seem to be taking a lot of care with programs that they're trying to bring in, and that's good for quality. It's good for the audience, you know. I mean, Hulu I think it's the second biggest subscription network in the States. I'm not sure on that, but
it's always kind of divided somewhere between Hulu and Amazon.
Okay. Okay, but I've even been hearing more and more about it, about the service as it's been growing, and so I mean, if now they're venturing, and I've heard nothing but like three completely separate people recommended 11/22/63 to me today, like three completely separate, unrelated incidents, and I'm just like, I was like, when did that even get adapted as a show? Because I knew about the book, I read the book, I love the book, and I was like, when did this come out? And then they're like, it's on Hulu, and I'm like, oh, okay, so I guess I'll have to find another means to get it, but yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Let's see what else is on here. Friday, April 1st, 2016, Banshee coming back to Cinemax. Have either of you watched Banshee before?
I have I've never seen an episode of Banshee, and this trailer was awesome.
It was.
Oh, it's a great action series.
I was like, what is this? This is great. This is like Lock, Stock, but even cooler.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that was my reaction too. I thought I had heard of Banshee, heard a little bit about it, never watched it, don't have Cinemax, so that's one big reason. And then I watched this trailer, I'm like, this is insane. Like, this is like, everything is like, so like larger than life here, you know? I just in a good way. It's almost like a comic book.
Yeah.
It is super.
Or like a pulp, like a pulp novel or something.
Like a pulp novel. Yeah, it looks really cool. I definitely, this definitely made me want to go and watch it.
Yeah, Banshee is a really good action series, and it's one of those shows that's kind of weird because sometimes you kind of write it off as like, oh, it's just kind of an action series, and then it'll do something that just kind of blows your mind, you know? Like, you're watching, you're like, did they really like pull off like an amazingly tense scene like that? Like, I need to rewatch that just to be sure I didn't like somehow get caught up in the moment and judge this wrong. But no, like, they pulled off some pretty amazing stuff on that show, and just like the visual aspect of the show it's just so, all the shots are framed so amazing. It does look like it just like popped out of a comic book or something. It's a really good show, so I'm looking forward to it. The 4th season brings Eliza Dushku on board from Buffy and Angel.
Dollhouse, too. Dollhouse. I don't care. I love that show. Dollhouse. That's where she's from.
Yeah, I think I was at Comic-Con, and I think Eliza Dushku was talking about that at Comic-Con. So
yeah,
she was going to be in it.
So yeah, it's the final season, so it's definitely a really good series. It's produced by I can't remember his last name. It's produced by the guy that did 6 Feet Under and
Alan Ball.
Yeah, Alan Ball. He's not the showrunner on the show, but he produced it.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
His production company, and he was involved in kind of setting it up initially, and then kind of handed it off to the showrunner, who's done an amazing job on it. So yeah, it's really good. And it's a show that's gotten better, like, season over season. Like, they've kind of looked at everything and gone like, we could actually be better than this. Like, we don't just have to be just a fun action show. We can actually be really dramatic. And so they've really improved drastically season over season. And some of the best fight scenes you'll see on TV, too. It's amazing stuff.
Excellent. I'll definitely have to check it out. If it's as good as you say it is, I'll probably just get the full series Blu-ray version when it comes out. But, yeah, awesome. That trailer was awesome. I have to say, I was like, I didn't know much about the show before, and so seeing the trailer, I was like, yeah, damn, that looks like one of those hidden gems that I bypassed. And I don't know how well Cinemax doing in terms of that, because I've heard about Banshee, not a lot about it, but everything that I have heard has been pretty positive. It's just, it seems like it's one of those subscription networks that's still trying to find their footing.
Yeah.
Because they don't have anything else that they're pushing right now, right? So
they have a few things. Because they have the Nick, that's a Cinemax show. That's been getting a lot of positive attention. It's Steven Soderbergh.
Right.
And they just ended, like last year, I think, Strike Back, which was not really an original. It was like, you were part of the funding, but it's actually a British series. And so they were doing that for a while. And so they've been really kind of investing in like the kind of action-y type stuff. And then the Nick for some reason, which feels like it should be on HBO rather than Cinemax. Like it doesn't mesh with it's like everyone, the joke with Cinemax used to always be Skinemax because it was like the soft porn channel,
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so that's what everyone used to call Cinemax was Skinemax. It seemed like when they went to original, because they did originals a long time ago too, and they were all like soft porn.
It's like original soft porn.
Yeah, when they started getting into like actually trying to do like legitimate stuff for like originals, they really kind of honed in on the idea of like these heavy action series. And it was like Banshee and Strike Back were like the big kind of mantles of that. But now this is the last season of Banshee. Strike Back's ended, and now their next big series that they have on right now is the Nick, which is like more kind of like an HBO Showtime type drama. So it'll be interesting to see if that's like a change in direction or if they're going to kind of continue on with more action series after that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do.
On the same day here, though, on April 1st as well, Winona Earp on Sci-Fi, which I'll just say right off the bat looks like the worst of the new sci-fi shows.
I'm gonna hijack you right there, Tyson. Breaking news for Canada. I just found out that The Path will be premiering on Showcase, which is owned by Shaw. So apparently Showcase has a deal to screen The Path. So series premiere March 31st at 9 p.m. The Path will be available to Canadian audienhes.
Congratulations, Tyson.
Because who cares about Winona Earp? I saw that and I'm like, that's typical sci-fi. I have a love-hate relationship with sci-fi because yes, sometimes their stupid ideas strike comic gold like Sharknado, but then you get stuff like Winona Earp, which you can just tell was thought up in someone's bathroom, and yeah, it just looks so bad in every way.
Looks like, it's just poorly made, yeah.
Not funny, not interesting, not just no satirical elements to it. Just looks stupid, and
you can tell it's stupid just by reading the description here. A descendant of White Earp who works for U.S. Marshals Monster Squad. Okay.
Like it's typical sci-fi, but it's like sci-fi channel garbage. But will it be good? Probably not. Will it be so bad it's good? I'm leaning more on just.
It's so bad that it stops being good.
Yeah.
Stick with Supernatural, people.
Yeah.
Just
Supernatural is definitely a better show. But one thing I can say though, Ed, is have you watched some of the other like new shows on Sci-Fi? Like have you seen The Expanse or The Magicians?
Well, that's my thing with sci-fi, because I find that a lot of their ideas sometimes, like when they're trying to be serious, they're pretty good, but their execution isn't all there. Like I thought Helix sounded like the coolest concept ever, and then you'd watch the show and it was just so boring. And The Magicians, I've seen an episode, I like it. I might probably have to watch a little more. The Expanse
it gets better as it goes.
Yeah, The Expanse has kind of underwhelmed me though. Like I feel
How far
like
did you watch The Expanse?
Just the first couple episodes. It's kind of underwhelmed me a little bit.
Get to episode 4.
Yeah, episode 4 of The Expanse is like the turning point.
Okay.
Like that's kind of, yeah, that episode like literally blew me away. And then after that, it just kept getting better and better and better.
Do you like Mass Effect, Tyson?
You mean Ed?
Do you like...
I do like Mass
Ed?
Effect.
I'm sorry. Yeah, do you like Mass Effect, Ed?
Oh yeah, Mass Effect, Halo, all those lovely.
The action scenes,
yeah,
the action sequences in the 4th episode of The Expanse totally reminded me of Mass Effect, like completely. So it was badass. Just get up to that point and then tell me what you think.
Okay. Yeah, if you finish the 4th episode and you're not interested, you never will be.
Okay, for you guys, I will do that. I will do that. But you also said The Magicians is good, so I should also try and give that one a try.
Magicians gets kind of subtly better. It's not like an explosion of quality like
not like an explosion of quality. I'm sold on The Magicians. I don't know. I can't say like there's been a point definitively where if you're not sold on it, you're going to be sold on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The 4th episode of that is also very good. But it's not like a mind-blowing episode like the 4th episode of The Expanse.
See, here's my thing. I used to give like TV seasons up to episode 6 to hook me. I really did, because it was like sometimes shows just take a little while to get going. It happens. Yeah. And so I was always like, up to episode 6, the show hasn't hooked me, then it's done. Now I find it's like the pilot of episode 2, just because there's so much stuff that's on my plate. Like my list is so huge, and so it's like if I can't get to it, you know, or if I can't get into it by like the 2nd episode, I just kind of give it a pass. And I did that with both Magicians and The Expanse, where it was like I liked it, but enough to keep watching, not so much, because I just I thought with The Magicians and The Expanse, I thought we were getting like kind of a new sci-fi channel, like a sci-fi channel that was ready to jump in and just give us these quality science fiction and fantasy series again. And then they give us this Winona Earp crap, and I'm like...
They're also doing like a Van Helsing series.
Yeah.
That sounds really bad.
I thought you were getting better sci-fi. I thought we were going for quality this time around.
They do still have some things that look good, but man, like, they have some stuff that doesn't.
Yeah. I really think Sci-Fi Channel needs to focus more on quality control than anything.
Well, because they're a niche market. They're like, you know, the science fiction and horror and that kind of thing. So for them, it should actually be, I guess, better or easier for them to produce good content, because they only have to focus on a certain niche, and a very forgiving niche, if I have to say. Like, horror fans and sci-fi fans are very forgiving for the stuff that they get. Like, stuff that I would not tolerate in anything else. I find myself being like, yeah, it's okay, it's sci-fi, or yeah, it's okay, it's horror. It's a horror. You expect that stuff. And
is it a niche anymore when you consider when I say niche, they're the 2 biggest genres right now, and they're probably the only ones that can sustain themselves without the use of any stars. But they're still kind of, you know, like there's a specific audience for that, and I've always found that sci-fi or horror producers, creators, they tend to focus on that specific niche. And yes, it's gotten huge over the past five years, definitely, maybe even more so than that. But still, it's like you don't have to worry about drama or comedy arcs or any of those audiences. You have a very specific type of genre that you're tackling, and at this point you should have either mastered that genre or at least been able to not greenlight shows like Winona Earp. I mean, when you speak, it still blows my mind that a TV show about zombies is one of the biggest shows in the country right now, that like you could talk to anybody and they'll know what you're talking about. And it still blows my mind, because I would never have thought that, you know, like zombies, everybody's gonna like really get into that? I don't think so. It's like,
I remember when the only zombie movie people knew was Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, exactly. And so like being like a fan of zombie films or something, you know, and like that was inconceivable to me. So it just points out to me like, these were niche genres, but not so much anymore.
But they still have like this core audience to those genres that are like super, super loyal. And it's similar to like video games. Like, you know, you look at like, say, a company like Nintendo, for example, and like everybody knows like Mario Kart stuff, but they also have this audience of like Nintendo gamers. That's like a large niche, but it is neat. That it's like 10 million strong, basically, that will buy whatever they put out. You know, like, okay, you know, new system comes out, this core group will buy it, period. You know, even if it sucks. You know, they're gonna buy it.
For sure, and I do feel that the larger mainstream audiences usually will find one show that they all just, for some reason, they just all gravitate towards. And yes, with horror it was The Walking Dead, with fantasy it was Game of Thrones, and I'm not really sure what the sci-fi show right now is, but I know Star Trek was one of those back in the day where it just completely transcended its genre audience and found a larger following. So yes, definitely The Walking Dead, but I don't know if they would try to put out another show, another zombie style show that didn't have The Walking Dead name on it that would connect with an audience. Like even something like Ash vs. Evil Dead, you'd think that has almost every ingredient that could appeal to a mass audience show, but again, it's still just kind of restricted to its cult following.
Right.
Which is great, because it's exactly what I wanted.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't think I actually bothered to watch this trailer. I think I saw the name and I read the description and I skipped over it.
Well, you didn't miss anything.
Yeah, I didn't think I would. I was like, Winona Earp, U.S. Marshals Monsters. Okay, to the next show.
For this to work, for this concept to work, it would have had to been a 5-minute YouTube skit that slowly turned into a web series if the response they got was pretty positive as they kept going. And then people could say, oh yeah, that's a great concept, then make a show about it. But
or just very self-aware.
Exactly, but the way they're pushing it on us and the tone that they're going for and everything, it's like, it's one, we've already seen shows like this and they were done much better, and two, the concept just looked like they didn't even think it through.
Well, I mean, even look at, like, in the trailer, she has a gun that basically looks like and has a backstory that's very similar to, like, Colt from Supernatural.
Yeah.
But not nearly as good.
And I get it, like, and I get what they're trying to do. They're not taking themselves seriously. They want you to laugh at the absurd nature of this show. But the way I saw was, like, how long is that joke gonna last? Like 10 minutes into the pilot, and then you're done? They're gonna be out of ideas very quickly.
So, you mentioned, we were talking about The Walking Dead and shows that have The Walking Dead in the title. That happens to be the next one on our list. Sunday, April 10th, Fear the Walking Dead returns. I know, Will, you said you haven't seen this yet. Did you end up seeing it, Ed?
I did. I watched the trailer and I did also watch the Flight 268 series of episodes, because I know they were premiering that during Fear the Walking Dead, but for me, I ended up watching Fear the Walking Dead after it ended its run. I like the trailer. I think it's fine. But the thing was, I don't know if they wrote themselves into a hole with the first season where it ended with the zombie apocalypse happening. Because when you hear how they're talking, like, I saw the extended trailer where they had the interviews with the writers and the directors, and they're like, the first season was a family drama set during a zombie outbreak. Now it's going to be a family drama set in a zombie apocalypse. I'm like, wait, that's The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So basically, it's Fear the Walking Dead has now become The Walking Dead now. It's just another show that's following a different family. I don't know. I don't know if they're just trying to milk the concept now for as much as they can. I mean, I'm sure the writing is going to be okay, but like Fear the Walking Dead and The Walking Dead for me, like the problem with them is that they have, in every season, they have like 4 or 5 amazing episodes, and then they have 3 or 4 pretty good ones, and then they have a whole half season of filler where stuff just doesn't happen, and that's not going to change. That's the format because it works for both shows, and I don't think that anything is going to change with season 2 with Fear the Walking Dead, even if I don't know if it's a 16 episode order or 12, but it'll be the same thing. So.
But even The Walking Dead proper repeats itself constantly.
Oh, all the time.
It basically fits into this format. Like, they find somewhere they think is safe, they start to settle in, they go from being kind of like wild and, you know, kind of a little bit crazy to kind of becoming a little bit more domesticated as people, I guess. And then something happens that destroys their situation and they have to flee.
It's cyclical. Characters are gonna die, guy thing, same thing. It's the same thing, exactly, because that's all you can really do with this concept. Like, there's nothing more that they can do. It's basically find a safe haven. That safe haven gets destroyed by human stupidity or human, like the humans not being able to coexist. And then it just becomes again and again and again. So, actually, if you guys have not seen the Screen Junkies honest trailer for The Walking Dead, it sums up perfectly my feelings towards that show.
I saw the original one. I haven't seen, they refreshed it, I know, recently.
So we did not need 2 shows for this.
No.
No. I love The Walking Dead. I love the main show, mostly because of the characters and, just strong characterization in the main show. And it's like, I don't need to follow characters who are not those characters do the same thing. That was not an interesting concept. I thought they had to bend over backwards to try and explain how this was not The Walking Dead, when clearly it was. And I was never sold on this show.
So here's one thing, like my thoughts on Fear the Walking Dead, because I did watch the whole series. And I actually think it's pretty good, but the problem is exactly what I thought it was going to be, which is it's cool because The Walking Dead started when Rick got out of his coma and it was already in the zombie apocalypse, and Fear the Walking Dead explored this kind of time before it. But I kept saying the whole time, the closer it gets to just being in a full-blown zombie apocalypse, the more it just feels like an extraneous series that we don't need.
Yeah, and that's...
Like, it just feels like, okay, and I almost kind of was hoping that what Fear the Walking Dead was actually going to be kind of like seasonally episodic. Like, they were going to focus on a group, and it was going to kind of tell the story of the apocalypse and how things start playing out, and then that was it. That was all we were getting from that group. And then we would get something else. And I think that would have been really cool if we got just kind of these, we had these little pop-up Walking Deads from all these different places and these different environments and these different conditions and these different stories that kind of set into it, and then just kind of used that as the filler between mid-seasons of Walking Dead, as just kind of almost like the way a web series used to serve the purpose of, but actually in the place, kind of like they did with, Agent Carter with Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they put it between the 2 halves of the season, and just did a shorter run, okay, each season's only gonna be 6 or 8 episodes or something, and that's it. And it's just going to tell a very tightly knit story, kind of related to these things. And maybe if a character does survive, maybe they pop up in The Walking Dead proper at some point or something if they happen to be near there. And you can do that kind of crossover stuff, and that would be kind of cool. The problem is that it's like you said, they crossed the line, and now it's just The Walking Dead again.
Exactly, and like I love that idea of an anthology series. Follow different groups of people right before the apocalypse happens. I think would have been a great way to not only differentiate themselves from The Walking Dead, but to give us more about the mythology, like what Fargo does with it takes characters, but it expands the mythology, goes into different stories every season because it's an anthology. Whereas now you're following the same family of what they're going to be doing the same thing, looking for shelter. That doesn't work. Running around doing the same thing. It's and again, we're not invested with these characters as much as we are with the characters in the main show, because we have 6 seasons to their 1.
Asking questions that the audience already knows the answers to.
Exactly. What's the point? So that's where I feel as soon as I saw that zombie apocalypse take over on the last episode, I'm like, they wrote themselves into a hole. If they're not going to continue, it's going to be the same The Walking Dead all over again. I don't know. Yeah. It kind of loses its appeal.
So I feel the same way. I am going to check out the series when it returns, just because I actually did kind of like the first series, and who knows, maybe they'll do something that's different enough that will change kind of the pace of it. I mean, at the end of the series, they were going towards a boat, and that would be different, at least to some extent. Just for setting, I guess, a different kind of prison. But I don't know. I still feel exactly the same way I felt when I first heard about Fear the Walking Dead and what they were doing with it, which is that I really like the idea that they're exploring this territory before, but that the legs to that only last so long.
Yeah.
And once that's over, then what, And so we'll have to see if they're able to pull something out from that. Speaking of Walking Dead, Monday, April 11th, we get a new series on Sci-Fi called Hunters, which comes from one of the producers of The Walking Dead.
Boring.
Gillian Hurd.
Boring. This looked totally boring and generic. I hated it.
Tell us how you really feel, Will.
Being a little generous there, Will.
it just had like zero like style to it or anything. Like it was I don't know. It didn't look interesting.
It does look kind of budgeted. It looks like you could see the budget limitations like really clear as day on it, you know?
Right. Like the aliens don't even look like interesting. They just look like slightly deformed people. It's okay.
I think the way that you can save something like this is by getting really good characters with compelling actors that have a lot of chemistry with each other. That wasn't really on display in the trailer.
No, so far it was like this big cliche of like, oh, okay, well we're like a government organization. Like these aliens are here, they're terrorists. We're hunting them, and oh no, one of our own is actually an alien too. But she says she's good, but you know I'm not going to trust her because how can I work with? And I just thought, wow, that is just such a huge like cliche. It's like so tiring at this point, and it just didn't look like at all interesting to me.
What did you think, Ed?
Well, it looked better than Winona Earp.
That's definitely true. Yeah, definitely better than Winona Earp.
If I had seen that trailer, say in a movie, say if it was advertising a movie, it would be one of those movies where you just look at it like that movie only exists so people can have a job, that people can get paid. This is exactly what this show looks like. And again, this is one of those things where sci-fi, come on, man. This would have been great for 1995. You're two decades late with then.
Yeah.
It looks awful. It looks stupid. And
we are getting a lot of alien invasion stuff, so I think they were a little prescient about that aspect.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I think the concept would work if they did it like, you know, like you were talking earlier about like Cinemax stuff like Banshee or Strike Back or something. If they did this like it was like freaking Strike Back with Alien, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like that.
Yeah. If they had really given it this kind of gritty, super action-y kind of vibe, you know, it would have helped a lot in what they were trying to do. And it looks like that is what they're trying to do. They're just not doing it well.
Yeah.
It looks like they're trying to make this kind of, you know, covert group that's like, you know, gritty, and they're, you know, hunting down these terrorists, and they're like, and you kind of get this like Black Ops kind of vibe from them and stuff, but it's not good, you know, like they're not doing it well. And that's the problem. If you can't pull that off, then it all falls apart.
It's a rehash of ideas, and it doesn't look like they want to bring anything new to the table. So, I mean, that's the type of audience that you'll get. You'll get people just tuning in because whatever, they'll give it a shot. And if they're bored by episode 2, episode 3, then that'll probably be it for that show. I mean, like I said, the trailer did nothing to interest me, and I'm someone where I'm a big believer in it's not the story you tell. If you want, every series or film boils down to like 4 or 5 stories anyway. It's not the story that they're telling, it's how they're telling it. And with this one, they clearly are not going in the right direction to tell this kind of story. It's like you said, it looks so cheesy and so budgeted that to do this right, you would need a bigger budget. You would need a little more better.
Or you need a visionary. I mean,
exactly. Like better creature design than what they have, better makeup than what they're using, and definitely better actors than who they have.
Because I mean, we talk about like budget and stuff, but then if you look at something like, you know, going back to film or something, look at like what Robert Rodriguez was able to do with like El Mariachi, and make that really compelling on $7,000.
But he was also aware of his limitation. He knew he had enough money to have a guy jump over a bus, but not enough money to crash a bus. He didn't try to crash a bus on a $5,000 budget where it looks like that's what Hunters is trying to do.
Yeah.
You know, they're trying to make this huge epic with no money. So it's going to look bad. And because it's going to have such a serious tone, I know this one they tried to add in a couple of those humor jokes, but really they're going for a more serious tone, and it's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree. It's a shame. Like you said, it definitely looks better than Winona Earp. And who knows, this could be one of those ones that like, you know, we all kind of dismiss, and then we hear like later on, oh no, it's actually really good or something. At least it has enough production quality where that's feasible, that it could do something right. We just haven't seen it. I don't really have a lot of expectations for it though, that being said. It's interesting though that like the alien kind of stuff is coming back now. We're getting a lot more like alien invasion type stuff. I mean, I think probably just the new news that Independence Day was coming back probably spurred all of it. They're like, oh, Independence Day is coming back? I guess aliens are back, you know?
Aliens are back, yeah. Right.
Oh, yeah. Well, and Ridley Scott is actually calling Prometheus to Alien Covenant, so that's a huge thing, too. It's actually going to be an Alien prequel this time. So, yeah, aliens are back. They're in, so, sorry?
Have either of you seen Colony?
The movie, the Colony?
No, the TV series Colony.
I've heard about it. Haven't actually had a chance to watch it, though. But I've heard okay things.
It's, what's pretty good about that, and this is something that, like, a show like Hunters can learn from, is that they're approaching the idea of, like, kind of a alien-occupied city, but they're really approaching it in this really gritty way that's reminiscent of, like, if you've seen movies about, like, you know, East Berlin, you know, during the Cold War or something. And the kind of, like, harsh conditions of that and the idea of, like, collaborator and, you know, that are, like, traitors to their own people but them having their own reasons and that kind of aspect of it, they're really playing heavily into. And the more you watch the show, the more you kind of almost forget that there's an alien element at all. Cause like you never see the aliens. You never do at any point. Every so often you'll see some element of like the technology that reminds you like, oh yeah, okay, there's aliens at play here. But usually it's just about the kind of drama of between like the collaborators and the people that are not collaborating. And like the kind of like harsh, like third world conditions that start to pop up and under the kind of control and the kind of tyranny and all that kind of stuff. That's what takes center stage. And it's an interesting way of saying like, okay, we know aliens got played out in the 90s. Like they did every possible type of alien story or something. So instead of focusing on the aliens, we're just going to use aliens as kind of like maybe it's not even aliens. Maybe it's something else. Who knows? But there's some kind of advanced technology. There's some kind of oppressor that we've never seen them one. So you don't know what they are or what their, you know, purpose is or have any idea of that. But it's more about the drama between people that collaborate and people who don't and the drama that creates. And so it kind of gives you that kind of, you know, it's almost like the Civil War of Ireland or, like I said, you know, East and West Berlin or, you know, Cold War kind of aspects. That's kind of what you're getting, more than anything else. So that's like a lesson that I think a show like Hunters could take.
Because it's going to do none of that.
Yeah. It's going to like probably start off on an alien's face. It's going to be the first shot of the show.
First shot or an eyeball opening.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that before.
Yeah. It's just going to start off right off the bat with like no mystery and no. Yeah, okay. But, April 15th, 2016, season 2 of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Now the trailer for this was pretty much useless. It was just a teaser.
It was
to show the characters. That's all it was. But I really liked Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
I did too. It was a really fun show, so I'm glad it's getting the second season.
Ed, did you watch it?
This is one of those shows I don't even need to see a trailer for because I love the first season. It's one of my favorite comedies on TV right now. I'm a huge Ellie Kemper fan anyway, like from The Office days, but this show was just so suited to her type of comedy and the supporting characters that they gave that Tina Fey was able to write, her roommate and her boss are just such great characters, and there's so much about this show. And I've talked to people who've watched it and they said they don't get it, they don't find it funny, which I think they're all crazy because I laugh so hard during the show. I can't wait for this season to premiere. I don't know if I'll need a whole day to binge watch this one, but I'll definitely be doing that.
Half-hour show, so yeah, you're not gonna need a full day. But man, yeah, God, John Hamm in the first season.
Oh my God. So good.
So amazing, yeah.
So good.
So much of that show is so great. And I love how it just kind of feels almost like Looney Tunes, you know? It's like a cartoon.
So what's next on the list?
Next on the list is Containment, Tuesday, April 19th on the CW. You mentioned this briefly right at the beginning of the podcast. I forgot we were talking about where it came up, but we were talking about CW series, and you mentioned Containment, Ed. So what did you think of this trailer?
Oh, I love the trailer. I think it looks awesome. Like most CW shows, usually when they start off, look amazing anyway. I mean, there's rarely a CW show that I watch that I don't like almost right away. Vampire Diaries excluded. But I mean, I thought the trailer looked really good. I don't know how long they can sustain this show for. I mean, it seems like it could be a great first season. After that, I don't know, but
I've heard it referred to as an event series, so it might be like a one season off kind of thing.
Right.
Which would be kind of the best, I think. for
I think
Sherlock.
so, because again, this idea could run dry. They could very well be doing romancy stuff by season 3 if they tried. But I really liked what I saw, because I hate to bring movies all into this, but Contagion was a movie I really, really liked. But I always felt that they could have done so much more with that if it had been a TV series. So hopefully they have that same kind of sensibilities going into the show. And I love it. I like the CW because I like how they have their main characters always younger, and so they appeal right away to teens, but they never forget that they could have an older audience, so they bring in older actors that they focus on a lot. The 100 does that very well.
Yeah.
I like that about the CW shows, and so this one definitely feels like it's going to have that PG but very realistic kind of tone to it. So I'm down with this.
Yeah, definitely. The CW is a channel that we've praised a lot on the podcast, just because they are kind of like the new default home to genre TV. You know, I mean, almost everything they debut is somehow related to like a comic book property, or it's, you know, it's fantasy, or it's science fiction, or there's some kind of element to it. It's horror. That's like, and they used to be like the channel for like all the just kind of teen stories, and that was it. And they still kind of have like teen stories working through it, as you said, but they're kind of focusing on these larger ideas, and they're not getting caught up in just romance all the time that leads nowhere.
I think too that this is also very different. Like you said, it's a very different type of show for them, because like you said, they deal a lot with comic book properties, and when they don't, a lot of the programming they have is still very, you know, teen oriented, like Vampire Diaries being more or less teen romance, you know. But this is a very different show for them, and so I'm very interested to see how they handle this material. So I think they'll do it very well, because the trailer looked like there's a lot of production value behind this, that a lot of care went into it. It also looks like it's really pushing the boundaries for what can be shown on TV, because shows like topics like this, or a show like this is only going to work when you see what this virus is doing to these people. And the trailers made it look like they're going to be showing us some pretty nasty stuff.
I think tying it to a younger cast is also kind of a good idea, because the idea of like this connecting to like something that's more of a melodrama, which a lot of what CW is melodrama, I think it works. You know, that kind of combination really works well, because in melodrama, the problem with melodrama is that you take these little nothings and you make them overly dramatic. The strength of melodrama is you can take something that's dramatic and make it devastating.
Yes.
And I think that combination could work really well for Containment, whereas it didn't necessarily work as well because there have been a lot of like virus outbreak series in like the last couple of years. You've mentioned Helix earlier as being something that was kind of like one of those. But a lot of the problem with that is that, you know, they didn't really do that great of a job on character relationships, so you don't care as much about the characters, and it hurts the execution. But when you have these kind of younger characters, I think CW's kind of mastered that lingo, or that kind of way of getting you connected to these characters well,
it's cool, because I don't want to say that writing teenagers is easy, because it's not, but they've kind of got that formula down pat, where you have your love interests, you have your relationship parents, you know, you have your issues at school or trying to fit in. All they have to do is spend some time establishing that, and then whatever they want to throw into the mix, it's going to hook its target audience. It still will work with older audiences like myself. I enjoy these type of shows, you know, even as a guilty pleasure sometimes. Again, Vampire Diaries excluded, but they're again, I have no complaints with this. I think it's going to be great. So I'm looking forward to it.
Will, do you have any thoughts on Containment?
It looks interesting. It's definitely different from the CW. It's definitely a different kind of show for the CW. That's about all I have to say about that.
It's almost like the CW like is starting to go, okay, we need to kind of hit the specific genre. Like, you know, like with the 100, they have their kind of like their teenage kind of hook. They have that angle, that formula down really well. And then they say, okay, so now we apply this to, we need a show like The Hunger Games, basically, that can work within that formula. And that's kind of where like the 100 came from. It was the success of The Hunger Games and the kind of the dystopian, YA stuff that had been coming out around then. And the 100 is actually based on a book. Oddly enough, I mean, they started the show, or they premiered the show, I think, before the book came out. It was like a very early license. So it probably has very little to do with the books now that it's based on, just because they, jumped in before the book was even out. But, yeah, I mean, they were talking before about getting like Battle Royale or something, even licensing that. And so you kind of see that that's what they were going for. And now you see like, okay, now you got this like virus outbreak thing. So they're being really smart with the way they kind of know what their target audience is. They know kind of how to hit the right spots to kind of engage them, but they also know that they need to vary things up. They can't just repeat the same concept over and over again. And they've been pretty good at that. And they've been getting into, larger concepts and genre shows to do that. And it's really cool. So
yeah, definitely.
So next up here, Sunday, April 24th, we got probably the biggest show on our list, as well as one of the funniest shows. So first up, these are both HBO shows. We have the return of Game of Thrones season 6.
Oh yes, of course.
Cannot wait. I'm kind of glad we're not getting a bunch of teasers, because I would be obsessively watching them.
Right.
And then I'd be like spoiling scenes for me, because that's what happens every year usually.
Oh yeah,
I'm like too obsessed, and then I overwatch it, and but I cannot wait for it to come back. I'm glad we haven't seen too much of it. I'm kind of excited that they are caught up to the books. That means that there's like, we're entering non-spoiler material, stuff can't be spoiled for us.
Entering uncharted territory.
I think this is the coolest thing this is why this season is probably for me the most exciting, because both fans of the books and fans of the show, they can't cross-reference anymore. There's no, oh, this was done better in the books, oh, the show did this better, oh, these characters weren't the same. Now it's like no one has any frame of reference. You're all gonna get the same reactions and the same shocks, and regardless of whether, when the books come out, if there's any similarities, it doesn't matter at this point, because it's gonna become its own thing, which I think is great. I think it's awesome, and it's gonna be very exciting to see this season for sure.
I'm just happy because I've had so many of the big events of Game of Thrones spoiled for me that I'm so happy that this is like, it's almost impossible now for something to be spoiled. There are a few things from the books that have yet to happen in the show, but they could just as likely not happen. They're not like huge events, and some of the things that have happened in the
Lady
show.
Stoneheart. Sorry.
Yeah.
Lady Stoneheart. Sorry.
And
sorry.
That being a perfect example, without going into detail, spoil any possibilities for Will, they've kind of like moved past that point where like they could completely remove that and it probably wouldn't matter.
True.
So even if there is something that could still be spoiled from the books, it's also likely that it will never even show up in the show anyways. So we're like so in this area of new content, and we get to see Bran again, which we didn't see at all last season, which is like he's in the most magical part of the show, He's like straight up like in wizarding school right now. wizarding tutoring. He's like one-on-one.
Oh, I think he'll take out Harry Potter any day with his talents, man.
Yeah.
This guy's gonna own it.
Just can't wait for him to warg into a dragon.
Oh, I know. It's coming, too. It's just the pieces on the chessboard, moving them into place.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's so much exciting about that. There's so many fan theories. And the great thing is now the fan theories that are going around are like the same fan theories from the book fans.
And that's what I love. There's no one that's gonna, everyone's on the same playing field. We have all the same expectations going in. It's gonna be really interesting.
So, now when you hear fans going Jon Snow's coming back, it's like, that's not a spoiler, that's a theory. They have no more information than we do about that, so that's really cool. So I'm really excited about that. Also coming back on the same day is Silicon Valley, which I don't know, have you watched that, Ed? I think Will said he hasn't.
I haven't watched Silicon Valley. It's on the list of shows that I have to watch. It's just
the massive list, yeah.
The massive list is growing, and it's just grown by 20 shows right now after tonight.
So funny.
Well, I love TJ Miller, and I've never been a huge TJ Miller fan. I mean, I liked him in Cloverfield. I loved him in Deadpool. Deadpool's almost completely converted me to a TJ Miller fan, so I definitely want to give this show a shot. There was a scene in the trailer that TJ Miller did that almost reminded me of his character in Deadpool, and for that alone, I was like, yeah, I really gotta bump this show up on the list a little bit. But
it is a half-hour comedy show, so it binges pretty quickly.
It's true.
It's very funny. It's one of the funniest shows, if not the funniest show on TV, especially if you have any interest in tech and kind of the tech industry. I listen to like a lot of tech podcasts and stuff, so there's a lot of kind of inside jokes and stuff there too. But like, you don't even necessarily need those, because I have a lot of friends that watch it that don't follow any of that, and they're like cracking up watching the show anyways, and then I'm kind of like, oh, did you see that one part? And they're like, no. And it didn't matter. Like, to them, it was still just laugh out loud funny from beginning to end.
It seems like it's tailor-made for two types of audiences, which is the regular audience that will find it funny, and then the techies that really get the joke. So I always admire writing like that kind of works on multiple levels. It's not easy to do as a writer myself, I know that. And so kudos to them. I mean, the show's going strong. It's like 3 seasons in now.
Yeah.
So definitely. Hope it doesn't lose steam.
Mike Judge that created and runs the show. So yeah, amazing.
My fear with sitcoms is that whenever I get into it is when it starts going downhill. So maybe I'll have to keep waiting.
Mike Judge.
I can tell you, like, the second season's probably better than the first, so I don't know about the third, but
yeah.
Like, there was one element of the second season that kind of was annoying, and unfortunately it was due to a tragedy that happened in real life, where one of the funniest characters in the first season died like halfway through filming the first season.
Oh shit.
And he wasn't one of the main characters, but he was like one of the standout funny characters, like, you know. And he passed away. He had actually, it was a really sad story if you actually read it. The guy had like cancer like 4 or 5 times, and he was only like in his like late 30s, I think.
Yeah.
And it finally got him, and he died. And yeah, he was like a hilarious character, very autistic, like tech company guy, you know. Mm-hmm. It was hilarious, and like the first time you see him, he's doing a lecture telling people not to go to school. It's really funny. So yeah, it's hilarious. And his loss like really hurt it. The show was able to, in the first season, kind of pick up by basically making it like that character was kind of off doing other things, and it still managed to be funny all the way through. In the second season, it's like they kind of tried to make up for his absence, and that I think was a bad idea. But that was probably the only downside to the show, and that still was relatively small, a small aspect of the show. So, but overall, I'd say the season was actually better.
Solid.
But yeah, so I have high hopes for this coming up season, and I thought the trailer was hilarious. Okay, so Sunday, May 1st is the return of Penny Dreadful. This is a show I love. I don't know, I might end up doing the same thing I did last year, which is I basically left Penny Dreadful season 2 in its entirety on my DVR until Halloween, and then I watched it like before and through like Halloween.
It's a cool show. I enjoy it as well. Maybe not as much as you, but I do enjoy it. So it's definitely going to be one of those that I'm going to look out for. It wasn't a trailer that I really needed to see because, again, like I knew it was coming, and I enjoyed the first 2 seasons very much. So I think Eva Green's great in it. And the concept's just so cool. Like really,
there is a new trailer out for it that feels much more Penny Dreadful-ish.
Yeah.
Like it has that kind of weird Victorian kind of, you know, that it's hard to explain. It has that Penny Dreadful style.
Yeah.
That you come to expect from the show. Much heavier in it in the second trailer that's out for that series. I might end up just replacing it in the article just because it is a much better representation of the show. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I like the show a lot. It's not something that I'm like waiting, you know, for like crazy. The reason I held off watching it for so long wasn't because I was saving it for Halloween, but because like I just wasn't in the mood to watch it.
I find it's one of those shows where it's not going to really grow its audience just because of its concept. I feel like it'll just cater to its audience. As long as it doesn't lose anyone, then it's going to keep going. But it's a hard show to recommend to people. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I find that
Some people are going to connect and some are
they're
not.
going to get it or they're not. And for me, I'm kind of stuck in the middle with it. Like, I get what they're doing. I enjoy it. Do I love it? Not so much. It's a beautiful show. It looks great.
Oh, yeah.
It has like that Guillermo del Toro kind of feel a little bit to it, like gothic kind of romance, fairy tale type of horror, and which is cool. It just, I guess the show just, it's one of those things where it just does what it has to do and doesn't really go beyond that. But having said that, yeah, I'm interested. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. As long as it doesn't bring down the show, keep it coming.
So, Will, you haven't seen Penny Dreadful.
No, I haven't seen that at all.
But does it interest you at all? Did you check out the trailer?
It interests me a little bit, yeah. I do hold some interest for it. It's just on a channel that I don't get. It's on Showtime, and I can't subscribe to all these premium channels. But I would like to check it out. Like say if they put it on Netflix or something, I would definitely watch it.
See, here's what you got to do, okay? They're offering Showtime now as an add-on for both Hulu and for Amazon. And you can do like free previews on each of them. So what you do is you do a free preview on your Hulu account, and then you cancel it. And then you pick it up on your Amazon account.
That's going to be a problem, I find, with all of these premium subscription networks. Like, if there's too many of them, it's going to oversaturate the market, and I find people are just going to latch onto one or two, and that's it. Because I know I can't be paying $80 a month for every single subscription service. Like Crave TV for people in Canada. Crave TV has Penny Dreadful in its entirety, as well as a lot of the Showtime stuff. Like that's how you can see Billions, and I think what's the other Showtime, the new one? I can't remember what it's called, but there's a lot of them. Yeah, The Affair. That's it. You can watch them like almost week to week, so that's cool. Because I don't know if the movie network comes with Showtime shows. Again, that's how Canada works. But Crave TV has both of them. I subscribe to Crave TV primarily for Orphan Black, which is one of my favorite shows right now. So that's but I get Penny Dreadful and a lot of the Showtime shows. So it is very accessible.
I didn't include Orphan Black on this listing only because there's no official date yet. There's no like new trailer or new footage or anything.
No, there isn't. So it's all good. That won't come out till later anyway. I know we're going to talk about it. Later
definitely.
In podcast, so
it's a show I like. It's just there's nothing to talk about literally right now. But yeah, that's cool. Penny Dreadful, Sunday, May 1st. And that brings us to the last show in our schedule here, which is Monday, May 30th, Roots. They're making the Roots miniseries again. This is a classic miniseries. Did this come out in the 70s or the 80s?
70s, I think.
I think so. And then this is going to be actually simulcast on 3 different channels in the U.S. This is going to be on A&E, History, and Lifetime. Probably all owned by the same company, I imagine. A lot of these cable channels are.
We'll get it on A&E, or if we don't get it on A&E, we'll get it on History Television, which is a Canadian version of the History Channel. So
do you get scripted content on that? Like, do you get Vikings or something? Because that's a history show.
Oh, Vikings is a Canadian show. We get Vikings. Although you guys, I think, get it even before we do. But we do get Vikings. Yes, we do.
You get that on your History Channel or
on History Television? Yeah, we get it on. Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty much the same thing then. Because that was a weird thing when Vikings came on. It was like, what, scripted content on History now?
That was, I think, the first show that History did. I think script-wise.
Yeah.
It's paid off big time for them. I think it's one of the best shows.
It's definitely a move that's better than all the secret alien history documentaries.
Oh,
yeah. I'm not saying it's alien, but it's aliens.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's definitely History Channel used to be the World War II Nazi channel. And then it was the alien invasion, like, secret history channel. And now it's like kind of making its own place as like a scripted content show about like historical period.
Sorry, that's my stupid phone.
I was wondering if somebody was saying something over. I'm like, what's going on?
That's my phone. Sorry, I don't know why I was doing that, but yes.
So Roots, though. Roots, miniseries coming back. It's one of the most famous miniseries of all time.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know about this one. The trailer looks great. I'm not saying anything bad about the trailer. It looked very well put together. The people involved in this, Lawrence Fishburne, Matthew Cole, Forrest Whitaker, Anna Paquin, Mekhi Phifer, it looks like a great show. My only thing with it is that I don't know if Roots needed to be.
Exactly. Roots did not have any issues. It wasn't like it felt dated, there weren't issues in place for Roots like that.
It seems like unnecessary. It seems like, it's just something to trade off of a familiar series,
Well, kind of stories about slavery and that kind of period in American history has started to kind of come back. It's like 12 Years a Slave.
There's another show on this list that we passed over that is about that very subject.
Underground, yes, on WGN.
Yeah, which I thought looked very interesting. Probably better than Root.
The director of 12 Years a Slave was also supposed to be involved in a project that I think was just canceled. Like, it's not going to happen now. That was going to be another kind of slavery period story. And so, yeah, it's almost like they said, slavery's in! Slavery is the new zombie! So, what do we got? What do we own the rights to?
And that's where I think the problem is that because the 1977 Roots was very iconic for that very same reason. It was one of the first shows to really show slavery in everything, every facet, every angle that it was about, like from the people, how people were abducted from well-off nations to become slaves, to the perspectives from the whites, the people that kept slaves. Like, it was one of those eye-opening cultural icons, I think, in American history that really explored that and laid a lot of the groundwork for a lot of the stuff that we have today. And yes, lately with films like Django Unchained, 12 Years a Slave, and with the TV shows that are happening, they're all bringing something new to this. Even commercial stuff like The Help, which is very, I guess, Americanized to portray slavery, but in a different light. It's still bringing something new to the table, to this discussion and this topic, which I still think is, if you have racism, it's a very relevant topic. I don't think exploring slavery will ever lose its impact. It's just when you're going to talk about it, what are you bringing? Because showing slavery, like showing people getting beaten and whipped and stuff, after a while, it's going to lose its impact.
It's been done a million times.
Exactly. 12 Years a Slave, I think, pretty much capped it at that. You don't need another show that's going to do that, because I don't think this remake is going to bring anything new to the table. Even if they remain faithful to the roots, to the original show, then it's not going to have the same impact as the original did. And if they try to do things different, I don't know what else they could do different with this show. I mean, I
honestly think they could have remastered the original and presented it in really clear HD quality and stuff, and just presented it the original again and advertised it, and just dumped that original one right back on their lineup, and it probably would have done just well for them.
Yeah, but then people won't get paid.
Classic appeal.
Yeah, people won't get paid then. They don't have work.
Yeah,
and that's what this feels like. It just feels like they're trying to cash in on the topic of again, not to diminish the topic, but because nowadays it seems that these shows are profitable and there is an audience for them, and there should always be an audience for it. I'm not saying there isn't, but what is this going to bring to the table? And I personally think it's just going to diminish the impact of the original, like a lot of not so great remakes tend to do, but it won't hold a candlelight to the original, just on the basis of what the original did for portraying slavery on
the cultural impact it had.
Yeah, the cultural impact. There's no way that this show is even going to remotely have it. And sure, it'll probably look nice, it'll be well acted, it'll be well directed. I'm not going to deny that. It looks very good. The trailer looked very good. It looked excellent. I'm intrigued to see how the actors play these roles, but will it have the same effect? Definitely not. And I don't think it was ever wanted that Roots needed to make. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think I'd almost rather see the fake Roots-esque movie that was in the Bob and David sketch comedy.
Yeah.
I would say I would definitely watch that instead.
Just because it's different. But you know what this actually makes me think of is, do you remember when they did the reboot for Psycho with Vince Vaughn? and, done by Gus Van Sant, and they did it like a shot-for-shot remake, including like the entire opening credits sequence, everything, which is like, yeah, it's cool that you're honoring the original, but you're not bringing anything new, and that's kind of what this makes me think of, is like, it's like you said, they're not bringing anything new to the table. And at that point, it's like, are you just making this to have work?
Yeah.
And when you do that, and then you put it on 3 networks simulcast to make it like this huge event, it's like, it cheapens the idea of both the original movie or the miniseries, as well as the idea of like big events, because this isn't something new. Like there are so many things going on now that can be culturally addressed in a way that could have maybe not the same impact as Roots. That would be asking a lot, because that had such a huge impact, but it could be something that has like a new and fresh impact on real cultural and societal problems that we have. And that is what we want to see have a big event like that.
Yes, going back to something that's already been done, not necessary.
So yeah, that wraps us up. That's the end of our show. So that is our spring 2016 preview. You can see the rest of our preview on the website, TVEnthusiast.com. And you can also see our entire listing of upcoming shows on our website as well. If you check in the up towards the top of the website, there's a section that says Schedule US. Click on that. You can see kind of all the stuff that's coming up regardless of season. But yeah, check out the spring preview and check out our schedule and keep track of the shows that you watch.
Definitely. A lot of good stuff coming up in the near future. It's going to be hard to keep up with everything.
So what, on this list, what are like your absolute top picks? If I said no specific order, but your top 3.
Me, the top 3 for me on this list. Ooh, that's tough. Say Hap and Leonard, Daredevil and The Path.
The Path more than Game of Thrones?
Ooh, no, Game of Thrones. Obviously Game of Thrones. But I want to say if Game of Thrones wasn't here, then The
Path.
Daredevil's number 1 for me, absolutely. Game of Thrones is not so high on the list, even though, yes, I definitely am excited for it. I'm more excited for Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, believe it or not. And I'm actually, believe it or not, more excited for Containment. I really want to see that. I'm interested to see what happens there. Game of Thrones, we know is going to be good. We know it's going to be fun, but we're 6 seasons in now. It's just part of our staple TV watching.
Right.
So, but Daredevil and Kimmy Schmidt are fairly new shows. Daredevil, I would argue, is probably going to go down as one of the best shows. I love it. I think it's the best show on Netflix right now, in my opinion, and probably the best thing Marvel has done. So I'm very excited for that, and I definitely can't wait that. That's number 1 on my list by far. And then I would say Kimmy Schmidt would be a close second.
So for me, it's Daredevil's right at the top of my list as well. Game of Thrones is as well. You made a good point that it's just part of our TV staple now, but I am really excited about that. I've rounded that corner. Like, my excitement for Game of Thrones dies down every year at a certain point, and then there's a certain point where it starts ramping up again.
Remember those 2
frothing at the mouth?
Remember those 2 weeks of depression you have after the series finishes, and you're like, wait, there's no Game of Thrones next week.
Yeah.
I have to admit, Tyson, I am not to the point where you are yet, where I'm just frothing at the mouth of Game of Thrones. I saw the trailer, the teaser here, and that kind of whetted my appetite, but it doesn't have me like, I'm not in full on.
That didn't do it for me either. That's not what it was. I think it's just, I think I've been psyching myself, and I've just been thinking about it coming up. Like, every year for Game of Thrones, we've done like a party at my house where we've gotten people together and kind of decorated stuff. And we've started that conversation in my house now about what we're going to do. And I think just that and getting that kind of momentum going up in my head is what's getting me psyched.
Okay, yeah.
So it's unique to me, I'd say. Or anybody else doing a Game of Thrones party.
I won't get psyched until we get like the first real trailer for this season, and we see like the scene, like some of the scenes from the season. They always do a good job with those trailers. I expect they're going to do a good job with this one, and that's probably where I'm going to watch it like 100 times and be like, really start getting myself hyped up.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's the point when I expect people to start getting hyped for it. Like I said, for me, it's like it's unique to me or anybody else that's thinking about throwing a party. You have to start thinking about it, and then you start getting psyched up. So I'm definitely psyched about that. The next one, besides Daredevil and Game of Thrones, is going to be The Path for me. I love Hugh Dancy. I love Aaron Paul. Hugh Dancy playing like a cult leader after playing the guy chasing Hannibal Lecter for so long is just awesome.
Yeah.
Contrast of that. The trailer just looks amazing. I cannot wait for that, and I'm excited just to see Hulu kind of stepping up their game. So I'm excited about that on like just multiple levels. So yeah, that would be my top pick. Those three, I guess. So yeah. Ed, do you have anything to plug? Anything to mention? Tell people where they can find you, or?
Well, in a funny change of events, I'm no longer really with Film Enthusiast. I'm still writing for them occasionally, but I kind of left that to pursue a little film venture. I'm actually making a feature film right now. That's basically all I can say at this point.
Oh, really? That's totally awesome, Ed.
Yeah.
Thank you. The script is almost finished, and we're doing casting calls up here in Toronto right now. I've almost got my crew assembled. We plan to shoot probably either in April or September, depending on certain locations that we lock down. But I'm really excited for that. When the website's up and when we start promoting our crowdfunding campaign, I'll definitely let everyone know about that. But most of my time is now consumed with that. I'm doing a little bit of writing for a horror channel called Bloodbath and Beyond. So bloodbathandbeyond.tv. Is that a great night? I submitted my resume just based on their title. They're actually associated with Eli Roth's Crypt TV. They're one of their affiliate sites. So I do some top 10s for them and some movie reviews and whatnot. But I do that on a part-time basis. The main focus right now is this film, also set in the horror genre. So I'll definitely keep you guys posted on that.
That's how you got to start, man.
Well, yeah,
exactly.
Almost every director I love started with like a horror film. If it wasn't horror, it was something extremely dark that could like vaguely be considered horror.
Yeah, like say, Peter Jackson, horror film.
Sam Raimi,
horror film.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's how you start because that's the fun stuff. And also horror is you can do a lot with horror with like a small budget. You don't need like this gigantic budget to do like good horror. So it makes a good genre for people starting out.
And it's a genre that people expect and enjoy, like kind of wild creativity.
Exactly.
In a way that they might not in other ones.
There's like so much you can do with that genre, and you don't have to have a huge budget to do something interesting or something like The Evil Dead. That was like a very small budget, and look what Sam Raimi did with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I found this whole process right now to be very challenging to my creativity, and I've actually been focused a lot on the story, like on just building the story with a small budget. Like you really think about it, and it really kind of tests it's been a challenging experience, and so it's been rewarding as all hell, but definitely challenging, and I can see what a lot of these guys have to go through for the first time around, because there isn't a lot of help, but there's been some support, and I've been really fortunate for that. But it's really just getting our feet wet. So I'm really excited about this. So definitely keep you guys in the loop.
Have you ever read Rebel Without a Crew?
Oh yeah, it's on my mantle. On my bedside mantle. I love that book.
It's fascinating to see the kind of length he went to, like the kind of smart way he approached making a movie on a budget. Also, like the way he approached like practicing, but like making money on what he practiced with, was really smart. And also, just kind of like the lengths he went to, like medical testing and.
Oh my gosh! Well, I'm not going that far.
Yeah. How he actually met people that became involved in his films by going into medical testing. It's like a fascinating read. So yeah, I'm definitely, I want to hear more about what's going on with this, and we're hoping to have you on a bit more often. Maybe we'll bring you back for podcast number 50.
Yeah,
So
I would love it.
That would be really cool.
This is 45, so it'd be in like 5 weeks, I guess. We'd have to nail down a date.
Well, just keep sending me. Just let me know what the topics are, and if I'm able to, like if I've seen the show that you're talking about, then yeah, I'll definitely jump on. I'm always bound. If you're doing another Advocates, let me know about that. I love that, man.
I definitely want to do something in that vein for the 50th. I want to do something special. So yeah, definitely. I'll keep in contact with you and talk to you about that.
Awesome.
Will, do you have anything to plug?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, and for me, just TVEnthusiast.com. I got a blog up now, but there's nothing really special. It's just a place for me to kind of vent thoughts out that aren't related to TV.
Hey, you're killing it, Tyson. Keep it up, man. Keep it up. Love what you're doing on TV Enthusiast. Great.
So yeah, just check TVEnthusiast.com. Check our YouTube channel where you can see all of our podcasts or listen to all of our podcasts and see the video casts we do. We're going to be doing another video cast this week where we're going to be talking about 3 episodes of Agent Carter, as well as The Flash, Arrow, and Legends of Tomorrow. So we're going to be recording that on Sunday unless something changes. And that's it. So thank you everybody for listening. Night.
Good night.
Good night.
If you would like to voice your opinion, send an email to theweeklyset@tventhusiast.com. TV Enthusiast is a part of the Enthusiast Media Network. Stay tuned to TV Enthusiast and the Weekly Set podcast for more coverage of all of your favorite